down and what's in between. Now, why is it called the land between? You are going to learn that tonight. But we're talking about this little parcel of land right there. That's where Israel is, right on the edge of the Mediterranean Sea. It's called the land between for several reasons, and you will learn that tonight. So, tonight is the first of 4 classes that I have prepared for all those who are going to Israel on Remnant's tour this year. But as you can see at the bottom, the classes are designed not for just those going on the tour this year, but everyone who will be standing and praying for us, because not everybody can go. We are very blessed, those of us who can go, but there are many who can't go. And guess what? We need you. We need you. We need you to stand with us, to pray with us, to support us. And then, maybe watching these video presentations, you'll get your heart's desire to go to Israel if it's not already there. And I encourage you, if it is your heart's desire to go to Israel, to pray and ask the Lord. Tell him your heart's desire, because he provides a way when there seems to be no way. I've seen God move miraculously in many that are going this year in providing the funds for them to go when they have prayed and asked the Lord about it. So tonight's class, The Land Between, is a geography lesson. Woohoo! We are so excited about geography, right? And class number 2, stuff you might need to know. Because there is stuff you might need to know if you're going to go to the other side of the world and visit Israel, right? All the practicalities of it. And I am so excited that next week, Radana, sitting in the back row, is going to teach this class for me. Radana is Pastor Jamie's wife. And Pastor Jamie, please wave. He's in the sound booth. For those that have never met Pastor Jamie, Pastor Jamie and Radana are leading this group as well. And so you are going to get to know Radana very well when she teaches next week. And she's going to do an amazing job at that. So that's all the nitty-gritty of what you need to know, what you need to pack, and what you need to look out for, and what you need to, what's about to happen to me when you go on this remnant tour. So hopefully you'll learn all that. And bring all your questions. You're going to have questions. Throw them right at Radana. Just lambaste her with them and see if she can answer them, okay? All right. The third week is going to be, I just call it the conflict, the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and what's it all about. I think it's extremely important that you understand this. Some of you might have an inkling of what has gone on in Israel through the decades since Israel has become a state in 1948, but we're going to talk about that. What is this Israeli-Palestinian conflict all about? Yes. Yes, they will have, yes, let me just get through this, and I'm going to tell you how to find it right on the app. How many of you have the app on your phone? Quite a few of you do, okay. And for those that don't have the app, if you can download it, that's great, or you can find what I'm going to tell you on the website as well. But yes, so the conflict, what's it all about? But there's also conflict, internal conflict going on in Israel right now that has to do with Netanyahu's judicial reform, and there's been a lot of protests in the streets and stuff, and we're going to talk about that. But you've got to understand when you go over there, why are there soldiers in every corner with great big guns slung over their shoulder? Why is that? What's going on? What is the political climate like over there? And so we will talk about that. Class 4, the church's unholy history. Well, this is something I feel it's very important for you to understand as well. What has gone on through the ages between the church and the Jewish people. The first church was all Jews, right? Jesus is a Jew, still is, okay? So the first church was all Jewish. Okay, so then what's happened? What happened through the ages? And we'll talk about Constantine. We'll talk about all the way up through, the Holocaust and replacement theology. If you don't know what that is, it's extremely important that you understand what replacement theology is, which is, in a nutshell, that the church has replaced Israel, and all the promises for Israel in the Bible don't belong to Israel anymore. They belong to the church. So we will talk about that. and other debacles. So that's that class. So this is class 1, and yes, there are people watching online right now from various states around the country, and so they're watching live. But for those that can't watch live, it's going to be very easy to access on the app. If you open up your app, if you have it right now, go ahead and open it up. Just go to the Remnant app. And when you do, that first page you come to, do you see where it says Israel 101 right at the very top? Raise your hand if you see Israel 101 right on top of the app. Okay, some of you do. Okay, now scroll down, and then you're going to see a slide that looks just like the one we're looking at. Do you see that slide? Tap that slide. You see it? And when you tap that slide, the slides that you're looking at tonight are already posted right there. Do you see week 1? You touch that, you touch week 1, and then you touch the PDF, the Land Between PDF, touch week 1, then the Land Between PDF, and you're going to see the slides that you're looking at tonight, okay? After the presentation tonight, the recording, Lord willing, Joshua promised, is going to be right in that same place, okay? So all you have to do on the app is open the app, scroll down till you see that Israel 101, click on that, and you'll find the way to both the PDFs and the recordings, okay? And as far as the website, I'm going to send an email out about that for those who are accessing the website to look at these. Okay, we all good with that so far? All righty. So now let's get into geography. There it is, Israel. That's where we're going. It is a very strategic location, but it is a relatively very small country. It's only about 263 miles in length, north to south. It's just 70 miles across at the widest point. So about across in here is about 70 miles, okay? And only 9 miles at its narrowest point. That's right up there where that arrow is. And you go, wait a minute, that's not going all the way across. Well, it is, because that's the West Bank. How many of you have heard of the West Bank? Okay, the West Bank, you could say, is Palestinian controlled, although we're going to talk a little bit more about that and a lot more about it in our class about the conflict. But the West Bank is sort of belongs to the Palestinians, sort of. But anyway, right there, Netanya, I lived there for 3.5 months a couple years ago, right on the Mediterranean, is only 9 miles. So this is a very, very narrow strip of land right here that's considered Israel proper, I guess you could say. Israel is so small, it fits like that into the state of New York. A lot of people would say that it's about the size of New Jersey, maybe a little bit larger than New Jersey. So it's very small, and it's always been called a land bridge between the continents. That's where the land between comes in. So I'm about to show you what that means. Now, just before I do, let's talk about the nations surrounding Israel in modern-day Israel. Right up at the very top of Israel, does anyone know what that country is? Syria. On the Mediterranean. Who said Lebanon? I wish I had a prize to give you. Yeah, that's Lebanon up there. Hold on, let me get this to work. That's Lebanon, that's on the Mediterranean. You that have been to Israel before, remember when we went to Rosh HaNikra, where the big, the blue sea and the caves and all that, that was right on the border of Lebanon. All right, now Syria is right there, right on the other side of the Golan Heights. Everybody see the Golan Heights up there? It's like this little outcrop of Israel. You know, President Trump was recognized the Golan Heights as belonging to Israel. That was huge because many countries didn't recognize that and said it still belonged to Syria. You will be on the Golan Heights. Okay, now on the other side, this is the Jordan River here. On the other side of the Jordan River, the other side of the Dead Sea, the other side of all this is the country of Jordan. And then in the left corner, we have Egypt. Okay, so take another look. We have Lebanon up at the top. Syria. When we go up into the Golan Heights, we will be in a place where you should be able to see both of those countries at the same time. Okay? Here's the border, and this is Jordan, and then over here is Egypt. So those are the nations surrounding the tiny country of Israel. But for millennia, where Israel is has been a major travel and trade route. Why? Because you see the major continents here. We have Europe up here, Africa here, Asia, the Near East. And to get from Europe to Africa, if you didn't want to go by sea, and a lot of people didn't want to go by sea because it was pretty dangerous, but if you're going by camel or whatever, you are going to go right through Israel. This was the land bridge between these continents, Africa and Asia, Africa and Europe, right? This here, it says impassable desert, impassable, not impossible. And so you don't just zip across to save miles, you have to go up through Israel. And so all kinds of trade and travel have always gone through Israel. All through ancient times, it's been a major travel and trade route. Now, there's a particular road that's actually referenced in the Bible called the Via Maris, the Way of the Sea. And this map, it says here, is from the 1st century, from the time of Jesus. Okay, this was a major trade route. And you see it's coming up here from the area of Syria. There's Damascus, Syria. The Via Maris, the Way of the Sea. And comes over here to Caesarea Philippi. You'll be going there. This is the place where, just below Mount Hermon. I grew up calling it Mount Hermon. My dad was a Baptist preacher, and that was Mount Hermon. Well, I think I've changed my ways after being in Israel. It's Mount Hermon. Anyway, at the base of Hermon, the Hermon mountain and mountain range, Caesarea Philippi, where Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" And what did Peter say? "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And he says, "Well, who has revealed this to you?" Well, anyway, Pastor Jamie's going to go through all that at Caesarea Philippi because that is like one of his favorite places in Israel, right, Pastor Jamie? So anyway, the Via Maris goes through there and goes through Dan, which is the tribe of Dan, another archaeological site up there, but and then down through what's called the Hula Valley. This is a valley here that they would go through. Of course, they don't want to cross mountains. They want to go in valleys if they're bringing, camels laden with whatever. And down through the valley, and there's rivers that join in here to make this is actually the Jordan River. The water comes from up here in Mount Hermon and all these mountains, and 3 rivers join to make the River Jordan, which goes to the Sea of Galilee. But here's this travel and trade route which comes down through this valley, and then look where it goes, around the Sea of Galilee. Capernaum, you've all heard of that, right? That's where Jesus did a major part of his ministry. That's where Peter lived. Jesus spent a lot of time there and, of course, taught in the synagogue. In fact, he taught in the synagogues all around the Sea of Galilee. And then Tiberias is mentioned several times in the Bible. Tiberias is where we're going to spend our first 4 nights in Israel, right there on the sea. So this major trade route going down around the Sea of Galilee, and then look, over to Nazareth, where Jesus grew up, right? And then down across. This is a major valley. I'll show you another picture in a minute, the Jezreel Valley. So they're taking valleys through here. And across the Jezreel Valley, Megiddo, you've all heard of Armageddon. We'll talk about that in a minute. Over to Caesarea. There's a Caesarea Philippi up here, and then there's a Caesarea Maritima, or just Caesarea on the Mediterranean. You will see that as well. And then it goes all the way down actually to Gaza. But one comment about that, you notice how Jesus chose to do his ministry in an area that was international. He didn't choose to do it in a little old village up in the mountains somewhere. He chose to do it when people of the nations were going through every day, all day. There were people from all over speaking different languages, coming from different countries, all the way coming down through there. And I think that says something about Jesus and what his goals were in his ministry. So keep that in mind, the Via Maris, the Way of the Sea, because that's going to come up again in this presentation. So Israel has always been a tiny little piece of land with a huge role to fill. In fact, if you look at this map right here, it says the Middle East. Where in the world even is Israel? You can't see it. It's so darn tiny. Like, where are you going to see it? All right, don't worry. I made you a arrow. There it is right there. You can see it. But it's so little. But God chose it. He chose it. Why did he choose it? Because he's God and he chose it. I don't know. But God loves that land. He loves those mountains. He chose that as a place for the King of Kings and Lord of Lords to come forth from, to be born, the Savior of the world that was going to be the means of salvation for all of mankind from that tiny piece of land. And we are certainly blessed and privileged to be about to go on a tour of this land. Okay, now we're going to talk about bodies of water in the land of Israel. When you go to Israel and you go to any of the shops in the Old City or whatever, you're going to see this t-shirt. It's everywhere. The Med Sea, the Dead Sea, the Red Sea. Because Israel has all three, right? You're going to see these t-shirts. Just wanted you to know, the Med, the Red, the Dead. Now, over here in this picture right here, this is really just the top half of Israel. The bottom half is missing. That's the Negev, the desert region. So here we have the Mediterranean Sea. Yes, we do. And we have the Dead Sea. You're going to see both of these. And we have the Sea of Galilee. But is the Sea of Galilee really a sea? No, because it's a freshwater lake. So there. All right, if you didn't know that, you know it now. It's a freshwater lake, but it's called the Sea of Galilee. So they didn't put that on, I guess because it doesn't rhyme with med, red, and dead, or they'd put it on there too. So it doesn't rhyme. Okay, so anyway, in this picture, you don't see the Red Sea. So here's one where you see all three. You've got the Mediterranean Sea. You've got the Dead Sea. Look how the Dead Sea is split into two pieces. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but it really is split into two pieces now because of shrinkage. And the Red Sea is way down here at the tippy bottom. A lot. One year our group went down there. One year our group went through Jordan and then down there, but we're not doing that this year. You know, one thing I got to tell y'all, we can't do everything. When we go over there, we can't see everything. You know, I pick and choose, Jamie and Radonna and our tour guide, we all pick and choose. Should we do this? Should we do that? Because you can't do it all. But we are praying that the Lord leads us to all the places that we need to go this time, right? Okay, so I want to ask you a question. Why is the West Bank, there's the West Bank, why is the West Bank called the West Bank? Does anybody know? Who said what? Well, you are half right. It is on the west bank of the Jordan River. Yeah, and it's not, I guess sort of the Dead Sea. But I think, maybe you're right, Chris. But no, it's on the west bank of the Jordan River, actually, like right all along in here, all the way up. And it does look like a little bit on the Dead Sea. But yeah, that's the only reason it's called the West Bank. So now you know, all right? Okay, so we are talking about bodies of water in the land of Israel. Here we have the Sea of Galilee, which is, you've already learned, is a lake. The Sea of Galilee is also called Kinneret. Many of the Israelis call it the Kinneret. They don't call it the Sea of Galilee. Its name is derived from the Hebrew Kinnor. Kinnor means harp because of its shape. Can you kind of see it might look sort of like a harp? It's also called the Lake of Gennesaret or Lake Tiberias. It is a freshwater lake. It is approximately 33 miles in circumference. It's 13 miles north to south, about 8 miles across. So 13 by 8 is the size. Good size lake, right? Now, at levels between 686 feet and 705 feet, it's the lowest freshwater lake on the planet. All right, trivia for the day. You can't get any lower than that lake. For freshwater lakes, it is low. And it also is a principal reservoir of the National Water Carrier. They get a lot of their drinking water from there. Israel also has desalination plants where they get some water from the sea. from the Mediterranean, but a lot of their drinking water comes from the Sea of Galilee. So I want to show you just a few of the places that you'll be going. Down here at the bottom, I know you probably can't see the little words, but when you look on your app and you pull up the PDF, you can make it bigger, right? It says baptismal site. The Jordan River feeds into the Sea of Galilee and then comes out of the Sea of Galilee. So the Jordan River comes out down there, and that's where it's called Yardenite baptismal site, and you'll have opportunity to be baptized in the Jordan River there. Now, Tiberias, that's where we will be spending 4 nights. There's a lot of history there. It's mentioned in the New Testament, and we're going to be right there, right on, looking out over the Sea of Galilee. Magdala, right up there on our favorite places. Look at Radana. She's swooning over there. She loves Magdala. We've been there every time. We've taken a group. Home of Mary Magdalene. They uncovered an awesome it's an archaeologic site, of course, of a whole city, but a synagogue, an ancient synagogue there that surely Jesus taught in. And I remember one of the first times we went there, it wasn't even open to the public yet. I just knew the right people, right? Her name was Hermana, and Hermana let us come in. And I don't think you can do that now, but then we reached over the ropes and we touched the tile, the pretty mosaics floor of that synagogue, knowing that Jesus' sandals, or maybe his bare feet, I don't know, had been in that synagogue. And it was amazing. And we've had some awesome worship times there in Magdala. Now, Gennesaret, that's a place where will probably be the place where we will launch the boat to go on our ride on the Sea of Galilee, and we will worship on the water. And Mount of Beatitude, you all know what that is, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Awesome, awesome place to go as well. And we have Capernaum. You will see what they call St. Peter's house there, lots of ruins there. There's this ancient synagogue there that's newer than Jesus' time, but you will see the base of it, the basalt, the dark rock base of it. They built it right over the synagogue that Jesus taught in. And Tagba, am I saying that right? Yeah, whatever. That place, Radana loves that place too. She likes to teach there. Place where they commemorate the miracle of the loaves and the fishes. It's a place where also it's going to be right around there that after his resurrection, Jesus made breakfast for the disciples right there on the seashore. And so that's an amazing place. Over there on the east coast, Kursi. Kursi is a place that we commemorate may have been the site of Jesus and the demoniac, and he cast the demons out of the man, and they asked to go into the pigs, and the pigs ran into the sea. You remember that story? There's other things you'll see, but we are going to enjoy being on the Sea of Galilee. In fact, I put this picture there because it is so much more than a lake. I mean, think about it. You're going to the place where Jesus walked on the water, where he did all this ministry, and there's nothing like it. I can't wait for you who've never been there to experience. And you see, this is just kind of the northwest corner of the lake, and here's Capernaum, here's the Mount of Beatitudes, Takpa, where Jesus cooked breakfast in there somewhere. And it also means 7 springs. There's 7 warm springs in this area that it's the best fishing. The fish come to the warm water. Nof Gennesaret, where we'll get on the boat, but it's just amazing. There's actually a prophecy in the Old Testament about the Galilee, and from Isaiah chapter 9, Isaiah prophesied that something amazing was going to happen in the region of the Galilee. Listen to this. By the way of the sea, we just learned what the way of the sea is, right? That trade route that came down from Syria. By the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, in the Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has shined. Isn't that amazing that Isaiah prophesied that centuries before Jesus came, that there was going to be a great light. In fact, the light of the world was going to come forth from the Galilee, from Nazareth. Nazareth is in the Galilee, and then all the way around the Sea of Galilee, where he did his ministry. And so many amazing miracles, and so many people came to faith in him in the Galilee. So there's something extremely special about being in the Galilee, and again, you're going to be there the first 4 nights. There's your hotel. What do you think? Good enough? The Ron Beach Hotel. We have never stayed here before, but last December, Pastor Jamie and Radonna and Michael and I went on a scouting mission, and we visited the hotel, and they gave us a little tour. And yeah, she will be right there on the sea. It's not really like a sandy beach, but they do have a swimming area. I have no idea if people swim in November there, December, really. November, December. There is a swimming pool. I don't know if it'll be open, but it is a little cool then. But I don't know, maybe. Bring a bathing suit. A couple things about this hotel. Every room has a balcony. Is that cool or what? Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. And the other thing, the rooms are big. Don't you remember, Radonna? The rooms were big for hotel rooms. I mean, they're bigger than the hotel you're going to stay at Jerusalem, so don't get used to it. But they're bigger, so you got more room to throw your stuff around, you know? But we were really pleased when we saw it. I think that we'll all really enjoy staying there. Okay, and so here's just to whet your appetite. You are going to be on a boat that looks kind of like that, and you're going to kind of be doing that. I mean, he walked on that water, and we will worship on that water. And last time in December when we were on that water, oh my goodness, Pastor Jamie and Radonna were all over the deck. I mean, flat on their faces. So, I mean, it was amazing. Holy Spirit came. You notice how big the hills are above that. When you're at the Sea of Galilee, that's looking over at the Golan Heights. That's how that, no wonder they call it heights, right? That is up there. Way up there is the Golan Heights, is what you're looking at there. Okay. Now, we're still talking about bodies of water. Let's talk about the Dead Sea. You see how the Jordan River it's coming out of the Sea of Galilee, is actually feeding into the Dead Sea. This picture shows it on one piece. Spoiler alert, it's not anymore. It's 2 pieces, but I'll show you that in a minute. Anyway, very close to Jerusalem, very close. Jericho, if all goes well, we'll be visiting Jericho. We will be going to the Mount of Temptation there, Qumran, where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, we can't go to all these sites, so we will see. And Gedi, we hope to get to where David hid in the caves from Saul. I was close. David hid in the and one of them Saul people, he hid from him and he cut off the piece of his robe and that. So, okay, so En-Gedi, Masada, amazing place where a big plateau mesa thing right by the Dead Sea where Herod built a palace up there, an amazing archaeological site, but where the Jews hid from the Romans during the Jewish revolt, and there's all story about that and how they all killed each other so that the Romans wouldn't cart them off as slaves and that. So again, I don't promise we're going to see all those because there's only so many hours of daylight, but we're going to see as much as we can. And in a minute, you'll see, yes, you are going to get to jump in the Dead Sea. Very, very gently, though, because we do not splash in the Dead Sea. Okay. The Dead Sea is a salt lake bordered by Jordan to the east and Israel to the west, right? You see that? Israel's on one side, Jordan on the other. Now, the surface of it, the surface and the shores are 1,400 feet below sea level, just the surface. And then if you go how deep it is, 997 feet, well, let's just call it 1,000. So 2,400 feet, that's how deep, below sea level. I mean, that's amazing. You cannot get any lower. It is the deepest hypersaline, that means really salty, lake in the world. It is 9.6 times as salty as the ocean and one of the world's saltiest bodies of water. This salinity makes for a harsh environment in which plants and animals cannot flourish, hence its name. No fishies live there. The Dead Sea is 31 miles long in this picture and 9 miles wide at its widest point. It lies in the Jordan Rift Valley. It's in a valley that goes all the way from the top of Israel down, and its main tributary or its main source of water is the Jordan River. So, I don't know if anyone's ever asked you in your life, how low can you go? I think I've asked my husband that before. The answer always has to be to the Dead Sea, because you can't get any lower than that. So there, you've got your answer if anyone ever asks you, how low can you go? All right. The Dead Sea is shrinking, and you can see in 1931 it was one piece, but it looks more like this today, between this and this. The drop in the lake level in the late 20th and early 21st century changed the physical appearance of the Dead Sea. There's a peninsula that extended eastward until the lake's northern end and southern basins became separated. And the southern basin was eventually subdivided into dozens of large evaporation pools for the extraction of salt and minerals, of course. So by the 21st century, it has essentially ceased to be a natural body of water. And so the northern basin up here, this is where we're going, is now actually the Dead Sea. The bottom of it here is evaporation pools for getting the salt and minerals out, all the goodies. So what's the Dead Sea good for? Well, it's always been a health resort kind of place, and Herod the Great actually visited it. I just told you that Herod had a palace near there, up on Masada, and he visited it and got in it and probably used the mud and whatever they got from it back then. It has been the supplier of a wide variety of products, from balms for Egyptian mummification to potash for fertilizers, and people also use the salt and the minerals from the Dead Sea to create cosmetics and herbal sachets. It's a lucrative resource valued in the trillions. It is extremely wealthy place and brings wealth into whoever owns all that. Lots of cosmetics. Ladies, when you go there, every store you go, Ahava and all kinds of Dead Sea products, and you're going to go, oh yeah, I want to put that all over my body, right? There are sinkholes around the Dead Sea, and some people would call it a dying sea. This doesn't look too good here with this building going in the ground, but the Dead Sea, yes, there's sinkholes all around it. See, like these little pools and things. You would never say to your friend or your husband or your spouse or whatever, let's go for a walk along the Dead Sea. You would never do that because you don't know where there's going to be a sinkhole, and it can be very dangerous. But one day, this dead, shrinking, dying Dead Sea is going to change. Did you know about this prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 47? If you read in Ezekiel, he's talking about the millennial temple, the temple in the 1,000-year millennial reign. And he's talking about the water that's going to spring forth from under the throne, Jesus' throne in the temple in Jerusalem. And this is what he says about the water that's coming from under the throne in Jerusalem. He said to me, the water flows toward the eastern region and goes down into the Arabah, the Jordan Valley, where it enters the sea. They're talking about the Dead Sea. When it empties into the sea, the water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live there wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. Fishermen will stand along the shore from En-Gedi. I just talked about En-Gedi, where David's hiding from Saul, to En-Eglaim. There will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be of many kinds, like the fish of the Great Sea. When they say the Great Sea in the Bible, they mean the Mediterranean. So isn't that amazing? So when you go there and see that Dead Sea with no fish flopping around in it or froggies on the shore or anything like that, you know that one day, look at that, That's what it looked. No, I don't know if I just found that picture. I thought, well, that's probably kind of what it's going to look like. That chapter goes on to explain that there's going to be trees all alongside of the Dead Sea, and the trees will have healing fruit on them. So, you just wish that you could go buy waterfront property there right now, because it's going to be a very wonderful place to be in the millennial reign. Okay, so 8 tips for swimming in the Dead Sea. How many of you want to jump in the Dead Sea? Okay, a few. Some of you are like, I don't know. Do not swim in the Dead Sea. Not allowed, okay? You may float in the Dead Sea. You may not go out there and do the backstroke or the forward stroke or any strokes, because that leads to splashing and getting things in your eyes. You do not want it in your eyes, okay? So you float gently, okay? You float in designated areas only. You do not put your head underwater. That would be really dumb, okay? Just saying. Yeah. No kicking or splashing others. Limit your time in the water. Wear an old swimsuit if you have one. Now, I've worn swimsuits in there before and they washed out okay, but anyway, just a thought. Beach shoes, because sometimes there's salty rocks there that can be real rough. Do not shave before just going in. For obvious reasons, I don't need to explain that. Feel free to get muddy, okay? and there's mud there, and some people sell mud to you, whatever. You can put the mud on. It's supposed to be healing. Now, I hope that you who have never been to Israel at least get in the Dead Sea this once. I mean, it is an awesome experience to get in there and feel that buoyancy. And some of us, I'm not going to get in the water, I'm just telling you, because every time I go, I let me have your camera, let me have your camera, let me have your camera, and I'm taking pictures of everybody in the Dead Sea. So, okay. Let's talk about Israel's 4 geographical regions. Here comes your geography lesson, okay? First, we have the coastal plain. Now, where do you suppose a coastal plain would be? Right here on the coast, right? And it's a flat plain. That's what plain means. Now, also it says, and Shephelah. Now, you've probably never heard of a Shephelah, but I'm about to enlighten you. You see this word right here, Shephelah. Shephelah is a transition area between the plains and the mountains, and I'm going to show you pictures of that in just a minute, because a lot of the Bible happened right here in the Shephelah. So we have the coastal plain and the Shephelah. And then we have the central hills and mountains. Now the central hills, call them hills, but they're mountains, go right up through the spine of Israel, all the way up. We don't even see the upper part of the Galilee there. All the way through the center. We have the Jordan Rift Valley, which is this very long, wide valley between the land of Israel and between Jordan. So there's the Jordan Rift Valley. And then finally we have the Negev. The Negev is like the lower half of Israel, way down in here, and it's pretty much all desert. The Shephelah is sandwiched between the coastal plain and the central hills. Okay, and I'm about to show you a picture of that. Okay, but first a picture of the coastal plain. Looks like a plane, doesn't it? It's pretty flat, right on the edge. Here's where it extends the whole length of Israel. Even, I don't know why Gaza's not red. That's Gaza there, but this is all coastal plain along, very flat. Okay? Now, this picture, you see here again, coastal plain, the whole length of Israel. Now, here's the Shephelah that Brenda just asked about. The Shephelah is the lowlands. It's a transitional region of soft sloping hills in south-central Israel stretching over 10 to 15 kilometers. That's 6 to 9 miles between the Judean mountains and the coastal plain. And this is about what it looks like. They're just little soft hills, okay? They're not mountains. They're just little hills. So it's a transition between the flat, then you have the little soft hills, and then you really have the high hills or the mountains right here, okay? So it's like a sandwich. Now, this one's not labeled, but this is actually Judean desert here. So we've got a 4-layer sandwich actually there. And then in the bottom, the Negev, the desert. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about the Shephelah. These are cities that you find in the Bible, and a lot of the Bible did happen in this transitional area because the Philistines, you've all heard of them, they're Philistines, right? The Philistines all lived on the coast. And most of the Israelites lived in the mountains, which is right here. So we got an in-between area of conflict. The Shephelah was an area of conflict between the Philistines on the coast and the Israelites in the mountains. And it says here, a place of conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines, okay? And you see the Shephelah's got several valleys going into it. The Sorek Valley, for example, that goes through Beit Shemesh, was where, right in this area was where the Samson and Delilah, Samson and the jawbone of the ass, yes, I said it, Samson and his putting the fox's tail on fire. You remember all those lovely stories, okay? The Sorek Valley. And then we have the Elah Valley. Oh, guess what happened in the Elah Valley? David and Goliath, okay, in the Shephelah region. Lachish Valley. Lachish is actually a Judean city. It's mentioned 22 times in the Bible. You might have never heard of it. A lot in the book of Joshua, some in Kings and Chronicles. It was a Judean city, well fortified, huge. The ruins there are amazing. I've been there. But in Lachish, they were overtaken by the Assyrians, and then it was rebuilt, and then they were overtaken by the Babylonians. And they kept falling. But anyway, all that's in the Shephelah. And so lots of Bible happened here. This is kind of what it looks like up close. You see the soft rolling hills. There's Lachish, what the ruins look like there. Oh, the Sorek Valley, again, the stories of Samson. And then in the Elah Valley, David and Goliath. Now we are going to be, Lord willing, I believe I put this on there, up on top of this hill right here, Azekah. And we're going to be looking down into the Elah Valley. That's way over on the Mediterranean coast. Gath, that's a Philistine place. And I don't know who made this picture, but they said the Israelite camp was on this side, the Philistine camp was on that side. And so, you know, Goliath was taunting across the valley, taunting the Israelites. And so amazing place to go, right? So remember Shephelah. I'm going to guarantee you that most tourists that don't go over there have no idea what a Shephelah is, but you do. So you better answer me if I ask you on the bus, what's a Shephelah, okay? All right, so now the Central Hills country. The Central Hills go all the way from the Negev. The Negev down here, the bottom half of Israel, all desert. But the central mountains go all the way up here. So from the Galilee in the north all the way down to the Negev, you've got these mountains. There's three parts. The upper Galilee. Now look here. There's the Sea of Galilee. That says Sea of Gennesaret. So you see they called it that. But when you say Galilee, you're not just talking about the sea, okay? Galilee is this whole region up here. And there's an upper Galilee and a lower Galilee. So these hills, these mountains are in the Galilee. Then you've also got the central mountains of Samaria and the central mountains of Judah. Now, when I say these words, Samaria and Judah, this is biblically what it was called, and we're going to talk more about that. But this is all where most of the Bible happened, is in those central mountains. Now, in between these mountains, there is a major valley. The valley of Jezreel is wide, and it goes from the Mediterranean all the way to almost to the Jordan Valley, almost to the Jordan River. And here is another picture of the Jezreel Valley up close. And so here's the valley, here's the Mediterranean. The Jordan River would be over here. And you see how there's Nazareth, where Jesus grew up, but it's up on the mountains. So you can go to the Mount of Precipice there, where Jesus, where they tried to throw him off the cliff. Remember that? There's cliffs from Nazareth looking down into the Jezreel Valley. And here's another way of looking at it, a bird's eye view, if you will. Mediterranean, here's the valley, mountains in between, all the way over to the Jordan River. Now, there's a view that you get from looking down, and you get looking down into the Jezreel Valley from this mount right here, Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel, the story of Elijah, the story of calling down fire from heaven, the prophets of Baal, all that. Okay, Mount Carmel. And then we have Megiddo. You've heard of Armageddon. Armageddon is mentioned in the book of Revelation. That literally means the mountain of Megiddo. There's a little debate over that. I don't want to get into it now, but I had to study all that stuff. But anyway, because Megiddo is not really a mountain, it's kind of a hill, there really is no such thing as a mountain of Megiddo, which is what Armageddon means. It can also mean in Hebrew the mountain of gathering. So it may mean that that final battle is not here but in Jerusalem, but that's for another day. Okay, but that's the view. That's the view that you see looking down into the Jezreel Valley. Okay, so I just had to mention the Jezreel Valley. Now we're going to talk about the mountains of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is mountains, but as it says in Psalms 125, there's mountains surrounding Jerusalem. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people from this time forth. When you're standing in Jerusalem, when you're standing even on the Temple Mount, you look up at the Mount of Olives. So there's mountains that you're below. Even though you're in the mountains, there's mountains that are higher around you. Now, this is a very interesting verse in 1 Kings chapter 11. That my servant David may always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen for myself. He chose it to put my name there. Now that verse says that the Lord put his name on Jerusalem. Now I'm going to show you something amazing. This is an aerial view of Jerusalem, and this is the old. I'm drawing around what is the modern day, the way the old city is now. And the city of David is right here, it slopes. Here's the Temple Mount, and there it slopes down. This is the city of David. Okay, all around the city of Jerusalem, there are these three valleys. There's the Kidron Valley. The Kidron Valley goes between the Temple Mount, and this is the Mount of Olives, okay? Then you've got the Tyropene Valley, also called the Central Valley, and you've got the Ben Hinnom Valley. A lot of bad happened in the Hinnom Valley in the Bible, child sacrifice and things like that, okay? So these three valleys form an ancient Hebrew letter called Shin. I mean, doesn't it kind of look like a shin? And the letter Shin not only is just a letter, it stands for the name of God. It stands for El Shaddai in Hebrew, which means the all-sufficient one. So you can see that the Lord actually did stamp his name on the city of Jerusalem. And you'll get to see that when you're there. I just think that's so cool. Now, these central hills, there's a lot to them. And there's a lot of Bible there. And you know Abraham, when he came from over here where the Tigris and Euphrates and from Mesopotamia, and he first came to the land down through Haran across this Rift Valley, and this is where he went. He went down the central mountains. He built altars in these different places. He went all the way down the central. He went down to Beersheba. There was a famine in the land, so he went on to Egypt. But when he came back, he came right back up through the central mountains. And you read the story of where did Abraham go in the Bible, this is it. He went in the central mountains, okay? This is where you will read all about what Abraham did, and his wells here and his altars that he built, okay? Not just Abraham, but Isaac and Jacob as well. That's what Abraham looked like. Right. So when you go to Israel, you're going to see signs like this, Path of the Patriarchs, because they all know this is where the patriarchs, I'm going to say it right, went in Israel right up through the Central Mountains. Here's another one, the Patriarch's Route. And so you can actually hike along the route and dress like Abraham and go to all these places and build an altar. But why do I bring this up? Because this path of the patriarchs, where does it go through? Right directly, all the way up through the West Bank. Okay? But this is the heart of Israel. 80% of the Bible took place in what is called the West Bank. 80% of it is right there. But yet this is the area that belongs to the Palestinians. You can see why religious Jews might want to go and stake a claim in there and say, hey, what does the Bible say about who he gave this land to? You can see why there might be, why there's religious reasons why Jews go and settle in the land. And you're going to learn a lot more about what a settler is, okay? Because there's a lot of Jews that live in the West Bank. There's a Highway 60 in Israel that also kind of goes up through the Central Hills, which is the path of the patriarchs. Now, Jerusalem is right here. See this little crook right here, this little right here? That's Jerusalem, because the west of Jerusalem is in Israel proper. East Jerusalem is in the West Bank. So Jerusalem, in effect, is already kind of split. All right? That's why it's right on the border right there. So you can call this the West Bank, but a lot of people, especially religious Jews and many Messianic believing Jews and many Christians, don't call it the West Bank. They call it Judea and Samaria. It's Samaria up here and Judea down here. It is the heartland of Israel. Now when you go along in the bus, and we will be in the West Bank, and I'm going to show you in a minute why you don't need to be afraid of that. Most of it is controlled by Israel still, okay? But you will go past villages where you may see one of these red signs. There's different areas in the West Bank. You will learn more about that in the class on the conflict. There's area A, B, and C, but area A is under the Palestinian Authority. So it says this road leads to area A under the Palestinian Authority. The entrance for Israeli citizens is forbidden. It's dangerous to your lives and is against the Israeli law. You'll see those red signs sometimes as we're going along in the bus, and there's a road off to the side into a village in the West Bank. No Israelis here. But yet 80% of the Bible took place there in the West Bank. In this picture, again, you see how Jerusalem's right there in the crook, half and half, and then we have Samaria up here, Judea down here. So, should we call it the West Bank, or should we call it Judea and Samaria? I will tell you that there are Jewish Israelis that are offended when you call it the West Bank, because the West Bank to them is saying it belongs to the Palestinians. So they don't want you to call it that. I'm not saying you can't say West Bank, because that sometimes is just how we describe where we are. But just to understand their perspective, okay? There's a lot of contention there. We will talk more about that in the class on the conflict, because many nations are against any Jewish settlements being in the West Bank, but yet there are many. The ancient biblical map here, after the United Kingdom of David and Solomon, you know that the kingdom of Israel split into two, and we had the kingdom of Israel up here, and Samaria was a big city up there. So this whole thing was called Samaria. And then down here, the kingdom of Judah. The tribe of Judah had Jerusalem in it. It was also the tribe of Benjamin joined with Judah. So you can see how that kind of corresponds with, here we have the West Bank today, but the upper part is called Samaria, above Jerusalem. Below Jerusalem is called Judea. You again see how tiny this is, only 9 miles to Netanya, only 11 miles to Tel Aviv. And so it is a very small strip of land, and so much of Israel is considered the West Bank. So the kingdom of Judah corresponds with the, Judea today. And the kingdom of Israel, ancient Israel, corresponds with what we call Samaria today. Now, when Israel became a state in 1948, they did not have access to the West Bank. That was Jordan's. Up until the war in 1967, then they got this. Then this became Israel's. So it is Israel's, but sort of not Israel's, and sort of Palestinian. There's a lot of politics behind all that. But a lot of the politicians say, and even in America have said in the past, just give it to them. Just go back to the 1967 borders. When they say go back to the 1967 borders, they're talking about just giving the whole West Bank to the Palestinians. But there's a problem with defending your own country when there's only 9 miles right there, right? But also this, look at this map. This is today. This is the West Bank today. And the brown mustard color, what color do you call that? The brownish color, that is all under Palestinian civil control. And the darker, what do you call that, rust color, is even more intense, Palestinian areas. But all the light purple, purple, and dark purple, that's all Israeli. That's all Israeli controlled. And there's many, many Israeli settlements. There are cities of Jews in the West Bank that are huge with tens of thousands of people in them, all the way down to tiny little shack outposts out in the boonies where some religious Jew went out there and put an Israeli flag and took a, mobile home or a tent or something and said, this is mine, whether it was legally his or not. So settlers, can range from those living in modern cities to living in what they actually call them outposts. But you see how much of it is purple. And when we travel from Jerusalem up to the Sea of Galilee, actually we're not going to do it going up. When we come back, we're going to come along this Jordan River, and you see how it's all purple, and then we're going into Jerusalem. So I wanted you to understand, West Bank doesn't mean totally Palestinian. As a matter of fact, there's 500,000 Jewish settlers that live in the West Bank. That's a lot, right? There's a lot of Jews living there. Okay. Now let's talk about the Jordan Rift Valley. Kind of looking at it from the side, and you see Mount Hermon up there at the very top, coming down through the Jordan River Valley or the Jordan Rift Valley. There's a Sea of Galilee, and then the Jordan River goes all the way down to the Dead Sea. Okay? Now, there's 2 tectonic plates here, the African plate and the Arabian plate, and so it's an area that those plates can move. You can have an earthquake there, though I don't remember ever experiencing one, but you can. That's why there's a rift there. It's between those 2 plates. Okay. Now, the Rift Valley is not just in Israel. It actually goes all the way down to Africa. But in Israel, we're just at the northern part of the Rift Valley. This, in fact, is the Red Sea. That's the Dead Sea way up there, the Sinai Peninsula. And the Sea of Galilee is way up there. But it goes all the way down to Africa. Okay, the Jordan River. I've already mentioned this a couple of times, but the Sea of Galilee gets fed from the Jordan River, which gets fed from 3 rivers that come from Mount Hermon area into the Sea of Galilee, spills out into the Jordan River. Now, when you go along in the bus, and sometimes you'll get glimpses of the Jordan River, it doesn't look like much. It just looks like a little, riverlet. It doesn't look like much in some places. Other places it's nice and wide and looks like what you think about the Jordan River being. And I imagine in the time of Jesus there was probably a lot more water in it. But anyway, it comes all the way down here, all the way down to the Dead Sea. Now there's Jericho. Remember, that's the first city that Joshua conquered, right? So the Israelites crossed over in here somewhere. Over in here also is where John the Baptist likely had his ministry, and John the Baptist was baptizing right in this area, it is thought, and Jesus was probably baptized right in this area here. So the Jordan River is Israel's longest river. It originates in the Dan, the Banyas, and the Hasbani rivers near Mount Hermon. It flows south through the drained Hula Valley into the Sea of Galilee. It continues from the southern end of the Sea of Galilee to its end in the Dead Sea. Baptism in the Jordan River. There's Jesus being baptized by John. There's the dove that shows up. And, the voice from heaven. This is my son in whom I am well pleased. Amazing to be there, and you will have your opportunity. There's me and my friend Carolyn Hinton, probably a little crunk right there, if you know what I mean, in the water. Unspeakable joy. I encourage everyone who goes to Israel, I don't care how many times you've been baptized, get in the Jordan River. I mean, what about our baptismal here, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you've been baptized before. You know that the Holy Spirit is doing things in that water. And wait till we get in the Jordan River, people. And I don't care if you've even been in it before. Do it again. Now, when you go there, Radonna's going to talk about this, but they give you these white robes to wear. Just a heads up, they're see-through, so choose wisely what you wear underneath them. When they get wet, they're see-through, right? Okay. Okay, now the Judean desert. What is that? You said the Negev was the desert. Well, there's this other desert. Remember I told you it's kind of like a sandwich. You've got the coastal plain, and then you get the Shephelah, and then you get the mountains, and then right on the other side of Jerusalem, because Jerusalem's like right here, on the other side there is a Judean desert, and it looks kind of like that. There's this place that if we have time, we'll go to, the Wadi Kelt, that you just look out and that's all you see. And so you get a real pictorial of what it means when it says wilderness. I mean, it is barren, barren, barren. There are monasteries out there because, a lot of people believe, you should seek God in the wilderness. So that is just another geographic area to be aware of. The Judean desert is actually considered a separate area than the Negev, which is down below, but it is very deserty. That's all along the Dead Sea, and like where Masada is, where En-Gedi is, all those places I told you that we were going to try to visit. There's Jerusalem right there, between the Judean mountains, and on the other side in fact, if you go on top of the Mount of Olives, on one side of the Mount of Olives, you see all kinds of trees and vegetation. As you look over the other side, barren over there. So, and then the Negev, down at the bottom, a lot of Bedouin live down there, Bedouin indigent people that have lived there for many centuries, raise sheep and goats. And the Negev is 12,000 square kilometers. It's more than half of Israel's total land area is Negev. We are not really going down there no, we're not. We're getting close when we're at the Dead Sea, but remember what I told you, we can't see everything. And there's a lot of cool things to see down there. Maybe next time. Okay, so I like this picture just to kind of bring this all together as far as the geography. You were looking at the upper half of the land of Israel. There's Beersheba. And by the way, Brunswick, Georgia is on the same latitude as Beersheba. If you draw a line around the globe, you're going to run right into Beersheba. Okay, so Beersheba. So what you're looking at here, the Golan Heights up there. Remember we saw the picture looking across the Sea of Galilee and it looked real tall? That's the Golan Heights. There's Mount Hermon right there. Okay. The Jordan River comes out of that. The Jordan River goes into the Sea of Galilee, which is right at the base of the Golan Heights. This belongs to Israel. This belongs to Jordan. Okay, this up here basically belongs to Syria. Anyway, here goes the Jordan River all the way down to the Dead Sea, right? Now, looking at our sandwich here, we've got the coastal plain, the flat area here. Here's Tel Aviv, where you're going to fly into. Actually, Ben Gurion Airport is a little bit inland. When you fly, if you have a window seat, some will, some won't. And you look down and you will see that we're starting to fly over land a little bit before we get to Ben Gurion, but it is right there on the coastal plain. See, this looks like, I don't know, popcorn or marshmallows or something, but that's how they're representing the Shephelah, okay? The soft rolling hills before you get to the mountains, okay? Here's the mountains actually. Now, here's the Jezreel Valley. You got to cross the Jezreel Valley, and then you have the Galilee, the mountains of the Galilee, the mountains of Samaria. We're going to Shiloh right here, or Shiloh, some people call it. Oh, can't wait till you see that. And then down here we would have Judea. We were actually visiting on our last day a place called Susia. Tourists don't go there, but we do. And it to me is one of the most amazing sites I have ever been to in Israel, and I cannot wait for you to see it. So Susia. So you are going to be in the West Bank. You are going to see some in Samaria and some in Judea. But that's just a cool way to look at it. And then we've got the Judean desert over here. The high hills of Jordan. You'll be amazed how high they look when you're looking across the Jordan River Valley. Okay, we have a test. Hey, do we have a stick here or something, or a sword or something? Michael Tyler, I would like you to come to the front, please, and find a sword, because he's going to take the test. Something that you can point up there. Is there a pointer or something? Or... That sword weighs about 100. Okay. You use this without the microphone on it then maybe. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Now would you stand over on this side? And I'm going to see what he knows. Okay, so we're in a moment. We are going to find the Golan Heights. We're going to find all these places, and ending with the Med, the Red, and the Dead. Can you stand a little bit this way? This way. Okay. Now the first one is, where's the Golan Heights? Ding, 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 ding. Good. You found it. All right. Where's Gaza? Good, Michael. All right. Now, we talked about Judea and Samaria, and you kind of see the West Bank there. Which part is Judea? I heard people say the lower. Very good. And where's Samaria then? And where in relation to all that is Jerusalem? In the little crook right there. You are doing good. Where would be the upper and the lower Galilee? That's the Sea of Galilee. I'm going to ask you one more time. Where would be the upper and the lower? It's right there. All those mountains that are to the west of the Sea of Galilee, that is called the Galilee. And like where Nazareth is, Jesus lived in the hills of Nazareth. Grew up there. Okay, where's the Jezreel Valley? It's a little bit harder. We're getting a little bit harder here. Where could it be? Jezreel Valley. Right there. Where that crook is, that's Haifa up there. And where that crook is, it's a valley between the Galilee, the area of the Galilee, and then where Samaria is, okay? That was a hard one. It's okay. Where would the coastal plain be? Might be on the coast. Good job. How about the Shephelah? Where would that be? A little bit further down, but you're close. Very good. Right in there. The sandwich between the coastal plain and the mountains. How about the Jordan Rift Valley? Where's that valley with the Jordan River in it? Where would be the Jordan River, dear? Very good. That is all the Jordan River. Okay, now how about the Judean desert? The Judean desert is between the Jerusalem mountains and the Dead Sea. Okay, now the Judean desert's up there. Where would be the Negev? Oh, I already told you. All right, you are doing well. You are about 80%. Now, where's the country of Jordan? Ding, 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 right. Okay, how about Egypt? Where's Egypt? I hear you all taking the test, and I love it. You're all doing so good. Where's Where is Syria? Yeah, Syria is opposite the Golan Heights, yeah? Okay, how about Lebanon? Very good. And what in the world's a Kinneret, and where is it? Sea of Galilee, where is it? Okay, and finally we have three seas. We have the Med, we have the Red, and finally we have the Dead. Let's everyone give him applause for that. You may leave. I am done with you now. All right. Oh, wait. Come back up. Come back up. You're not done. I forgot. We're not done with the test. A few cities. Now, this is harder, and I don't expect you to know all this, but anyway, where's Jerusalem? In the crook, in the crook, in the crook, in the crook. There's Jerusalem. I know, but you don't. Where's Beersheba? Where's Beersheba? Where Abraham? There you go. Where in the world is Tel Aviv in the airport where we're going to fly into? Very good. Tiberias. We're going to spend 4 nights there. You better know where that is. Where is it? Excellent. Netanya. I don't know why I put that in there because I love Netanya. It's on the Mediterranean. It's beautiful. Haifa. We're not going there, but where is it? Haifa is a major city, one of the bigger cities in Israel. How about Eilat? We are not going there, but Eilat is down there on the Red Sea. The Elats we're going to talk about that next week. Shiloh, whatever you want to call it. We're going there. You got to know where it is. It's not on the map, see? All right, I'll give you a hint. S. Yeah. The S is in Samaria. So Shiloh is in Samaria. We are going there. Now we're also going to Susia. Do you remember where I just said that? Where the S is. No, it's a different S. There's 2 S's. Okay, you're done. Giving him another applause. It's a polite applause that he did pretty well. I didn't want anyone else to feel uncomfortable. I only wanted him to feel uncomfortable. So that's why I asked him to come up. Okay. All right, so where are we going? This is going to look like a mess, but it's kind of fun because I kind of wanted to give you a sense of where our feet are going to be. The first day, we're gonna fly into Tel Aviv, and we're gonna go up along the coast. We're gonna see some sights along the coast, probably Caesarea. Have lunch on the coast and that sort of thing. Then we're going to go up through the upper Galilee and end up in Tiberias. So that will be the day that you arrive, because we're arriving in the morning, something like 8:50 in the morning. The second day doesn't look like much, but we have a full schedule planned. We're going over to Nazareth, where Jesus grew up. There's a lot to see there. And then when we get back, we're going to the Jordan River for baptisms that day. The third day is all going to be around the Sea of Galilee. Don't you like my scribbles? I just went, I'm going to be around the Sea of Galilee. There is so much there. The fourth day, we're going up to the Golan Heights. And we're going to be up there in the border of Lebanon and Syria. And much to do and see up there. The fifth day, we are going to travel down the Jordan River Valley or Jordan Rift Valley. You all know what that is now. We're going right down the valley where you're going to see Jordan on the other side. We're going to end up in Jerusalem. If all goes well, we're going to go to a place called Genesis Land. And if all goes well, we got group camel rides planned for you all. For those that want to indulge. Okay, day 6. We're going to be all around the old city. That's my scribbles. We're going to be, there's so much to see in Jerusalem. Mount Zion. Okay, day 7, I can't even fit it on the map. We're going to the city of David, which was the original Jerusalem that David conquered, where it was the Jerusalem for many years before Solomon built a temple up there on Mount Moriah. Day 8, we're going over to Jericho, and then down to the Dead Sea. We will see what we can see. We will see what we can see by the sea, okay? Whatever we can fit in before it gets dark. That's what we're going to do. But definitely floating in the sea. Where am I? Day 9, thank you. Day 9, we're going to venture up into Samaria, and we're going to see a replica of a tabernacle, which is going to be really cool. I've never seen it, but it sounds really cool. And we're going to Shiloh, where the tabernacle rested for, 437 years. Story of the Israelites there, the tribes being portioned their land, Samuel, here am I, send me, being raised there. Hannah going to pray there because she was barren before Samuel, right? But that's an amazing, amazing place. Day 10, down to Judea. Okay, that's where we're going to Susia. Again, I can't say it enough. I can't wait till you see it. I can't wait to see it again. It was amazing, and it's a jewel down there that most people don't get to go see. Day 11, I can't put that on the map because it's already scribbled over. We're going to the Mount of Olives. That's the day that you actually leave. We actually leave. Mount of Olives down to the Garden of Gethsemane. From there, I should have put this on the map. We're going to go over to the coast, possibly visit Jaffa. And there's some cool things to see there. So that's give you an idea, if you look at the scribbles, where we're going. And you can see we're not going to the lower half. Can't see it all. Can't do it all. We're going to do just as much as we can. Yes, ma'am? Oh, yes. Brenda asked if we were going to get to see the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Absolutely. We would not miss that. And also the Garden Tomb, because those are the two places that people go where Jesus may have died on the cross, where his tomb may have been, where he may have risen from the dead. We'll get into that later. But, nobody can know the exact place, but archaeologically there's reasons to think that it probably was the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, not the Garden Tomb. But the Garden Tomb is so beautiful and peaceful and serene, and Holy Spirit is there, and we're going to have communion together there. So I don't want to diss the Garden Tomb because I absolutely love going there. Okay. Hotel. Oh, yes. Rena asked if we would be going to the Kotel, which is the Western Wall. Absolutely. We will take time to pray there as well. Yes. Okay. This is your hotel. It's not on the Sea of Galilee. It's in Jerusalem. We have stayed there many times. It is not the newest. It is not the most modern. It's probably, but why do I pick, huh? It is nice. It's nice. The rooms aren't as big as the other hotel, but they're nice. It is a nice place. They have really, really good food there. Oh, the buffets are outstanding, right? But why do I pick Prima Kings? This is why. Location. Because a lot of tourists don't get to stay close to what we get to stay close to. First of all, we're going to be close to a place called Ben Yehuda Street. Great shopping. And we'll be able to go there in the evenings, It's maybe a 10-minute walk, do you think, Jamie? Something like that. If even that. And great place to go shopping, and we'll give you tips and stuff. And it's just fun, and it's close, and you can do it, whenever you want in the evenings. We're also close to a very modern mall called the Mamilla Mall. In fact, you have to walk through the mall to get to the old city. And the best thing that's in the Mamilla Mall would be this, the Aroma Coffee Shop. And by the way, there is an Aroma near Ben Yehuda Street, actually 2 streets over, but it's very close to Ben Yehuda Street. Aroma just did a whole new update. It's actually a different color now, I see on videos. But anyway, Aroma is, what can I say about Aroma? If you're a coffee lover, and even if you're not, Aroma is like the aroma of Roma, the best coffee ever. They have something called a mocha. Oh my goodness. So you can walk to Aroma, and just on the other side of the mall, you come up on steps that come up about right here. You're coming up out of the mall. See those people? They're coming up out of the mall up to the Jaffa Gate, which is one of the main entrances into the city. Okay. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is a map of the old city itself. We're going to be doing a lot of walking around in the old city. There's gates around the whole thing. These gates up here on the north, you pretty much won't be going through. You'll probably be going through the Lion's Gate. The Golden Gate, or the Mercy Gate, is that great big golden gate you see all the pictures of, and the gate that's shut, that was shut by Suleiman the Magnificent in the 15th century or whatever, whenever it was. We can't go through there, but we can look at it and admire it. And you might go through the Dung Gate. You might go through the Dung Gate. See, there's always someone. The Dung Gate is how you get down to the city of David, which is down here, Miss Lori. How do you reckon you're going to get there if you don't go through the Dung Gate? Lori says she's taking a taxi. Okay. Okay, and then the Zion Gate down here, you'll definitely be going through to Mount Zion. Jaffa Gate is the picture I just showed you, the picture. So anyway, gates of the old city. You'll notice the old city is divided into 4 quarters. Look who gets the biggest quarter. Here's the Temple Mount, and you can take a look at this later and kind of get the lay of the land, the Jaffa Gate right through here. Okay? All right, we are almost done. Now, biblical borders of Israel. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, if you've read the Bible, the Old Testament, you have from Dan to Beersheba, or Beersheba, if you want to call it that. I call it Beersheba. Okay, that's in the Bible 9 times. You see all the references, the expression from Dan to Beersheba, and it is used to define the area of the Israelites' settlement. So, the Bible will say something like, all the people from Dan to Beersheba did whatever. Okay, so that's what it says in the Old Testament, were the borders, and Dan is up at the very top here, up by Mount Hermon, Beersheba down here at the top of the Negev. So this was considered the land of the Israelites in this area, the 12 tribes. But there's this verse in Genesis 15 that kind of expands those borders. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, and he said, Abram, and said, to your descendants I give this land from the river of Egypt. What's the river of Egypt? The Nile. The river of Egypt is Nile. To the great river, the Euphrates, the land of all those ites. You see all those ites? Kenites, Kenizzites, Canaanites, ites. Okay, so this is what that kind of looks like if you draw it. We've got the Nile River over here. We've got the Euphrates over here. That's a lot. So maybe that's what's going to be Israel in the millennial kingdom. I don't know, but I wanted to show you that. Now, we've talked about tonight how Israel is the land between. It was called the land between because of ancient trade routes, ancient ways for travelers to go. It was an international route, and there were a lot of the cities that were along there. The reason they were fought over is because they could charge taxes to the travelers going through. So everybody wanted to own those along the trade routes. They wanted to own those. So that's why, they were always fought over. So it is a land between the different continents, between Europe and Asia and Africa. Not Europe and Asia, but Europe and Africa. But it's also a land between heaven and earth. And you're going to feel that when you go over there. You already know the story of Jacob in Genesis chapter 28, who laid his head on a stone. I can't really imagine that, but he laid his head on a stone to sleep. He had the vision of the angels ascending and descending between heaven and earth. When he woke up, he called the place Bethel, the house of God, and put up standing stones and pillars to remember that place. It so impacted him. So it was definitely a land between heaven and earth. And then in the book of Revelation, at two different times, the holy city of Jerusalem, heavenly Jerusalem, comes down out of heaven. And in the millennial reign, it doesn't sit on the earth. At least this is my interpretation. It doesn't sit on the earth. It hovers above because it's too big to sit on the earth. It's 500 miles square, okay? So it hovers above, and we go to and fro. It's suspended between heaven and earth. And then in the other time that it comes down, where it's talking about after there's a new earth, when there's a new earth after the 1,000-year millennial reign, I think it's going to be big because Jerusalem will be able to sit right down on it then. But heaven comes down. So this is a place where heaven has come down, where heaven will come down, and where heaven will come down for us when we go to the land of Israel. So it is a land between, and I can't wait for us to get there. So welcome home to the land between, the land of promise that was and is promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their descendants, the Jewish people, and all those grafted in. That's us who aren't Jewish, as an everlasting covenant and an everlasting possession. And that is the end of your geography lesson. You can turn off the video if you would.